We are live. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome. Let me refresh the group. Make sure we're in there. Where is the group? Come on. Sorry, guys. Computer wants to run slow every time you live stream. So there we are. Cool. We're in there. Awesome. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in for the next 10, 15 minutes with us. This is your weekly motivation. I got Mr. Jay Woolwine with me, as always, David Thomas. And we do these sessions to motivate, inspire, encourage, and educate. We really want to set you off going into the weekend, to the next week, with some empowerment, with some things to think about to help you improve your life and situations in your life as well. Not only could be in your relationships, your finances, and all of the above. All right. So today we're going to talk about keeping yourself happy. All right. Keeping yourself happy. So what does that mean? I'm sorry, you probably hear my kids yelling. They're all out of school in the summer, but
they don't sound happy, David. Don't make them happy.
Yeah, you should have heard us yelling at them earlier. We weren't happy, but it's human nature to want to please others, right? We're all by human nature. We want the approval of others. We don't like to upset anybody for the most part, but we don't. We care what other people think, right? It's human nature. So when people come to us with their problems and things like that, it's very easy to let them dominate us with their problems. And a lot of times it can make us unhappy because we were trying to help them and they continue to be in this cycle of poor choices, right? So we forget to take care of ourselves. And we're going to dive into that today about, instead of pleasing, everyone else, we need to make sure that we're first taking care of ourselves. Now, we're going to explain further how this is not, we're not saying be selfish. We're not saying, no, I'm not going to help anyone, but it's about taking responsibility for not allowing people to take advantage of you, but also giving up the false responsibility that you are somehow responsible for other people's happiness. All right. So we're going to dive into that here in just a second.
It's such a valuable lesson to learn too. So, our first priority has to be to take care of ourselves, right? Not other people. And it's like the airplane thing, right? They're like, if the oxygen mask drops out of the overhead bin, put your mask on first before helping those next to you. You can't help other people if you're passed out, right? So, that's, just think of it like that, right? It's such a great analogy. You have to take care of yourself before you're able to look after anybody else. So you have to recognize that some people are not going to be happy no matter what you do, right? No matter what you do for them. I know, David told a story one time about one of his cousins that, like, her parents gave her a car for graduation, and then she's like, "Oh, I don't like that color." It's just, you can't make everybody happy. I know, like I take my wife a coffee at work, right? And she's like, "Oh, I'm not drinking coffee this week. I'm on a diet," or what. This is an example. Not that my wife's like that, but it's just, there's just some things,
right? Yeah, it comes out and slaps you.
Thanks a lot. But you just, it's okay to do those nice things for people, right? But you just have to understand that that's not always going to solve it, right? That's not what they're looking for sometimes, and it's not going to always turn out the way you thought, right? Because all you can do is control yourself and making yourself happy. It's okay to do nice things. I'm not saying not to, but ultimately, you don't have any responsibility for somebody else making those decisions, right? About how they're going to feel about things or poor choices they make. And that allows them to, when they react in those ways that you're not expecting, basically you're being manipulated, right? And it can be exhausting because you're just constantly trying to help somebody that doesn't want to be helped, right? And it can apply to your business, your family, your friends, your work. You basically are becoming an enabler, right? You're enabling them by always trying to solve everybody's problems. You're just enabling them to continue to make poor decisions instead of forcing them to figure it out, right? Because you're trying to fix it.
Yeah, and going on top of what you said, it's so true that you said, some people, they don't want to change, right? They're addicted to the suffering. They're addicted to the attention. We all know those kind of people. That there's always is something wrong. It almost seems like they enjoy having something wrong. And so they expect someone like yourself or whatever, whoever being manipulated by that person to take responsibility for their problems, right? So what do? First, we have to recognize that, we cannot change what we don't acknowledge. So first we have to recognize and acknowledge that there are people in our lives that are trying to do that to us. right? They're always going to be dumping their problems on you. They're always going to be coming to you asking for help. And if you're allowing somebody to do that to you, then they're dulling your happiness, right? And like Jay said, it can be exhausting. Not only physically, like inconveniencing you, needing you to go do this, needing you to go do that all the time, but even emotionally, they can be inconveniencing you, making you unhappy because you're probably a nice person, right? You care. You want this person's problems to be solved most of the time. And, what's the tough part is, sometimes it can be your spouse, which that's a difficult situation. I know, right? Or I don't know. I'm not saying that, but I can imagine that's a difficult situation.
Ashley.
But sometimes it's your children, sometimes it's your friends, sometimes it's your work colleagues. It could be, if you're building the business, it can be your downline, it can be your upline, right? Or constantly coming to you expecting you to solve some kind of problem that they created by their poor choices. Now, of course, there's legitimate problems, and if you can help with them, that's awesome. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about people who who I'm talking about. The people that are consistently taking advantage of you, dumping their problems on you, expecting you to make their life all better, when in reality they're making poor choices. So, as long as you allow somebody to do that to you, they will.
Yeah. And sometimes the best thing to do is to not help them, right? And it sounds harsh, but it's that, it's that tough love, right? Where, it happens with kids, I think, with responsible parenting, right? That's that tough love where, this isn't really like solving a problem, but it's that same type of tough love where, like, my kid would fall and, like, your instinct is to run over, oh my God, are you okay, baby? And then they look at you and start crying, right? If you just sit there and look at them and don't say anything, or we used to always go, safe, and my kid would hop up and go, like he's on the edge of crying, but he was safe, so he's okay. It's just, it's hard, but you have to hold back wanting to jump in and fix everything. David and I were just talking about this before we started, and we have talked about this before. This really helps us. It's not just for you guys, but like just rehashing these things helps us as well. But a long time ago, I read this book. It's been so long, I don't even remember. It's called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's about men and women and how we like speak a different language. And how, like, my wife comes home from work and just unloads a day's worth of frustration, right? And I've managed businesses my whole life. And so, like, my initial instinct is like, oh, well, you need to do this. You need to write her up. Like, I have all the solutions for all her problems and I could fix them all in a day, But at least I think so, right? But she doesn't. That's not what she wants to hear, right? She doesn't want me to fix any of it, right? She just wants me to shut up and listen, right? She just has to get it off her chest. So that's something I've learned over 2 marriages, and 22 years with my wife, that you have to learn to let people hash out those things on their own. Anyway, that was a big digression. I digressed. Anyway, sounds tough, but that's the way that you need to do it with some people, right? Life's too short to allow people to have that negative manner around you, to control you in that negative manner, right? And if someone refuses to make good choices on their own, that's not your fault. That's not your responsibility, right? If they don't want to put their mask on and they fight you and they pass out, well, you tried to stick their oxygen mask on, but they didn't want it, right? So, but them controlling you, that's not their fault, right? That's your fault. We've talked about this before. Like, you have complete control over how you react to every circumstance, right? You're responsible for how you behave. And, like, my wife taught me this lesson a long time ago. I'm like, you shouldn't be mad about that. This is how you should feel, And she's like, what are you telling me how I should feel? This is me. This is how I feel, right? And she's so right. Like, she's 100% right. It's like, you can't make people feel a certain way, right? They're the only one that control that. And if you start allowing yourself to be manipulated by what they're doing, then you're the one that's responsible for that, right? You're only responsible for your happiness, not theirs.
Yeah. And so that, that's perfect. So that's why, going into the what you need to do, you have to set up boundaries, right? And it's not about being uncaring or being unkind or being cruel. It's about forcing them to take responsibility for their own actions, for their own choices, by setting up those boundaries, by not allowing them to expect that you're going to be at their every whim, right? I mean, when it comes down to it, we're all, most of us actually do care and we want to help people. So what do we have to do? We have to give them to God. You have to give those people to God. You have to say, hey, I'm not responsible for this person. I help them within reason, and they're going to have to start making better choices, and you have to give them to God. I mean, it can be like with your wife, right? Or with your husband, especially like a spouse, like I can't change my spouse, right? Only God can, and it's between her and God if she's going to change. Same thing with me. She can't change me. If there's something that needs to change, only I'm going to do that with working on it, working on myself. Right. So your job is not to be the keeper of the universe. Your job is not to make everybody happy. It is to fulfill your mission. You're
not Thor. You can't do it.
You can't do it. You just absolutely can't. But yeah, just keep in mind, give those people to God, because I know we all care, but you have to set up those boundaries.
Yeah. And part of that, we're talking about other people, right? And how they could be behaving like that. But the reality is you could be that person, right? There could be somebody that's looking at you that's like, I need to help them, or I'm going to leave them alone to solve their own problems, right? You could be on the other side of that. So just think about the one that you could be that controlling person, right? So you have to have a little bit of self-awareness, self-reflection, and say, am I that person, right? That reacts to other people trying to help me? Like, what do you do, right? Stop demanding that your spouse, meets every one of your expectations, right? Every one of your needs. That's not a realistic expectation. And that's just going to lead to an unhappy marriage. Take it from me, my second one. Stop expecting other people to solve your problems, right? That's the other thing, is like, if you're constantly going to other people to solve your problems, it's like what we talked about at the very beginning, right? It can be exhausting when people are constantly coming to you to solve their problems. It's the same way if you're the one that's going to somebody else, right? And I'm totally guilty of this. And even out of laziness, like, I'll message David for something that I know how to fix, right? I know it's in ManyChat. I could go through a tutorial and figure it out. It's the same thing in our Discord, right? People's like, oh, where's the video on the banker's candle? Well, go look in Unit 5, dummy. It's there. People they want the shortcut, right? So if you're that person, stop expecting other people to solve all your problems, right? Do a little bit of work on your own. Take responsibility for your own choices. Make better choices, and stop being addicted to the attention and the negativity and the chaos, right? That's not going to make you happy, right? You just have to be responsible for yourself. And that's the bottom line, is you have to be responsible for yourself.
Yep. And to close this up, really the bottom line comes down to, when you stand before God at the end of your life, right? Is he going to ask, did you make everybody happy? No, right?
I hope not.
He's going to ask, did you fulfill the purpose that I put you on the planet to do? And did you leave a legacy? Did you make an impact, right? Did you make a difference? And if you're allowing all these people that are just trying to take advantage, want the easy way, like Jay said, they're just wanting a shortcut to just manipulate you, control you, and to make you unhappy, then that's not fulfilling your purpose, right? So bottom line for today, let go of people that are in your life that are manipulative, that are trying to control you and take advantage of you. And I'm not saying, you do what you got to do. You don't have to be cruel. You don't have to be harsh. Like we said, make those boundaries, cut them, just distance yourself from them at the very least, and focus on what you're put on this earth to do. All right. So I hope you get value from this. Jay, as always, I appreciate you, brother. And we will see everybody very soon.
Take care.
Bye.